I'm pumped, and I just started learning about this guy, and I can't believe I haven't heard about him and what he's doing in the trucking industry. Which is the whole reason we brought this podcast to you, is to find folks that are innovative, that are moving the needle, that are dedicated for trucking and transportation, that are trying to really make an impact and change moving forward. So I'm so excited to announce and our special guest, Justin Clarke. Justin Clarke owns On Demand Truck Driver Staffing. Justin, how are you, buddy?
Hey, what's going on, Cameron? Nice to be here today, guys.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for coming on. And you're coming out of Arizona, which he claims to be cold. So I'm up in Washington. I don't know about all that, but
I
that's all
got long,
right.
I got long sleeves on here today, Cam. I mean, seriously, it's getting buttery, below
Yeah.
60 for sure on a consistent. It says 54 degrees. It says sunny 54 degrees, which is, for us Phoenicians here in Arizona, that's pretty much like the dead of winter, pretty much. So
Yeah,
we're
we've
here on
been
the coast.
sitting in, what are we at? 20 degrees, maybe 30
Mhm.
degrees. So I'm about to come down and come do some golf with you, or hit up some spring training or something in the springtime.
Anytime.
So
I'm heading out. I'm actually heading out tomorrow to go golf up in a little town called Prescott, Arizona. But it's in the
cool.
pine trees, and it's a little colder up there. So we will be dealing with the weather probably closer to what you're used to tomorrow and the next day. Up, I don't know why we're leaving Phoenix to go golf up north. But my friend is he's a crazy guy. He loves it, so he set this up. So we're excited about it. But yeah, so my company's called F Staff, and we provide on-demand truck driver staffing, and we've been doing it for the last 21 years. Our original company name was called Contracted Driver Services. Quite a bit of mouthful. Like I started this company when I was 19 years old, and so I always say, there was a lot of learning curve coming up when we first started this business back in 2001. So I've seen a ton of change in the industry. I've been providing nothing but CDL truck driver staffing for the last 21 years. And then now we're really excited over the last couple of years. We've been making a ton of headway towards providing what we call an on-demand model and a tech-enabled approach to provide temporary on-demand truck drivers, but in a way that's easier, right? You should be able to order drivers from your phone the same way you could order chapstick on Amazon if you need to, right after you have your wisdom
Yes,
teeth
sir.
pulled, right? So that's our whole approach is that people and technology work best together. So we've tried to bring the right technologies together so that the drivers can get what they need, which is work, and carriers can get what they need, which is drivers, in a much faster model. But we have a really compliant system, all the way around, right? Because when you're dealing with truck drivers, you really do need to know what you're doing. And so our back office system is really tight, and we have a DOT management system with our compliance office that really rivals, whatever our carriers normally do to qualify their truck drivers, because we need to meet their stringent requirements to hire drivers. And so we basically base our requirements off of, our toughest customer. And then we're hiring all of our drivers based on that. So our methods on the back office are pretty strong, but mostly we just get excited because we have fun helping drivers find work all across the country now, and really helping solve that problem in a new way where you can use the technology to get what you need as fast as you need it. And in today's world, right? I mean, that's exactly what you need. You need flexible on-demand services. And, I know my family uses a ton of them, it's television on demand, right? Netflix and, Amazon
Yeah.
services, all of that kind of came along. Right. So, it's been fun to watch everything kind of come together. And, I obviously I love talking with all trucker friends about anything about the industry. So happy to be here.
Now, so you came in at an early age then. What was the appeal or attraction to trucking, or do you have ties to trucking?
No, well, okay, so it's a kind of a quick story, but I was 19 in college. My mom was working for another staffing agency, and they provided drivers, right? That's what they did. And I had always wanted to be in business. And so at a certain point when that company wasn't really taking care of my mom the way that, we felt that they should have been with the help that she kind of pushed through with their growth. She was their main salesperson and driving all the growth with the company, but they weren't necessarily taking care of her. So at 19, I decided to, do some business planning and modeling off of their company, but provide different levels of service. And I definitely had a different vision, for what could be provided in the end. And it definitely was like a family of workers, and it was a place where we really did take care of our people, and we have a history of doing that at our company here internally as well too. So at 19, I really was. I'm not necessarily vindictive, right? But I wanted to go prove that I could kind of do it better than somebody that had already been doing it for about 15, 20 years. I don't know why I thought that I could, but I just saw the model as something that was pretty easy to attack. And so we just kind of went for it. So I have a identical twin brother, Scott. He and I went down to the Corporation Commission here in Arizona, filed for the business initially, made every mistake in the book that you could possibly imagine when you start a company. Probably almost lost it a few times, and then eventually really hit our stride and started to understand a lot about the industry and how to do it effectively, efficiently, compliantly, and in a way that we were proud of. So uh, it's been a great ride over 2 decades to see that much change. But I can go back, to when we first started, and it was just like two guys with a couple of phones, knocking on doors and getting people to believe in what we were capable of, and then proving that we were worthy of their decision to do business with us. Really,
I love America. I
right?
really do. I
I know.
think a chip on the shoulder gives some good motivation internally, and that nudge and that brings out that competitive edge that one needs. And your story is so familiar to a lot of entrepreneurs. I feel like because it's similar to kind of my background. I happen to go insurance sales, so just obviously different route, but it's the same. It was two guys on the phone and literally just smile and dial like Wolf of Wall Street and try to get people to trust in us to help them with their insurance for construction and trucking and that kind of stuff. As I started when I was 20, 21, so similar. So I respect
Mm,
that, man. That's awesome. You have a lot of grit in you, then, no
appreciate
doubt.
it. Definitely.
Yeah, man. Like
Hmm.
we're like warriors out here, so like the longer you're in, the harder it gets, but you just got to keep moving. And that's awesome. How big is your I'm guessing you're taking an approach with automation built in when technologies for some of the compliance plus back end side of the house, but how big is your organization? And I think you had mentioned you had placed to this point like 10,000 drivers or something, which
Yeah,
is awesome.
it's been so, and really just to tout that number as well, because I love drivers, and every one of those has a story behind them, and every one of them has a unique success story with our company as well too. But yeah, we've helped over 10,000 drivers find work. Currently, we're actually proving out again the on-demand model. So when our business started growing initially in like 2007, 8, 9, we were adding branches, right? That was the traditional model. You wanted to open in Dallas, so you got a lease at an office, you flew your flag, you start doing the same door knocking or calling and resource, building the business and doing all the BD that you need to in Dallas, right? Hire the staff and put it all together there. And we did the same thing in LA. And eventually I just thought that there was a really slow model, again, to be hiring at that rate. You really couldn't be nimble for your clients and to go open locations a lot faster if you were all worrying about having a copier and two more computers and all the resources that go in with a branch office. So I ended up moving things forward in 2019, and we closed all of our branch offices. We put everything into our corporate headquarters, and we focused on just growing things digitally, right? So we can hire our truck drivers without having to be in Atlanta. We can find our carriers without having to be in Atlanta. And we've proven that out now. So I think to date, FStaff's in 18 markets currently, and growing. And then we're really just trying to make sure that those marketplaces are as reliable as you can expect you'd want them to be, right? And so that's the hardest part: having enough drivers and having enough jobs in the marketplace at all times. That's kind of the Uber approach, right? Having enough riders, having enough drivers, right? So that's kind of our whole.
And trying to
Uh,
find that like that happy little medium to make sure that you're not doing one too much and or not staffing enough is definitely probably the hardest thing that you have to balance, especially right now with the economic downturn that we've been facing and the coming recession that we are going through. So I imagine that Cameron could probably relate with this, but a lot of my clients have stated that hiring qualified or finding qualified drivers is one of their biggest hurdles to be able to overcome to be able to operate their operations as well as they potentially could. So I guess, kind of going back to what you talked about earlier about qualifying and hiring your drivers based on your, toughest customer, what kind of standards do you guys have for your drivers? Because I'm sure if people are looking to use your services, they'd like to know, what the baseline criteria are.
Sure. Yeah. So because we're a staffing business, we really can't road test the drivers. So it's important to us that we have verified documentation on their background and their history. So to become an F-staff driver, you have to have at least 2 years of Class A commercial driving experience. We pull MBR checks. You can't have any more than one moving violation on your MBR in the last 39 months to get started. You can't have a DUI. I mean, there's like strict requirements, right? Like we want to make sure that we have the safest drivers on the road that are working for our clients, because when you're in the on-demand world, especially, right, you have to imagine not only does the driver, you have to be available, but he has to be able to drive a wide variety of different types of equipment at times. And our system does filter for, the right types of drivers so that, we'll find a flatbed driver for a flatbed truck. We're not going to mismatch. But it's helpful if drivers have, a variety of experience. That's kind of the new type of driver for the future, is somebody that is really, experienced in multiple trailer types, can definitely back. That's going to be a heavy requirement for the future. There's going to be less truckload, more city driving, more congested driving, more, blindsided moves, things like that that'll happen in the future too. So, the new driver really wants a flexible environment where he or she can act more like an entrepreneur, right? That was kind of the whole idea behind being a truck driver initially, back in the 70s and 80s, I believe, was that, you could be that wanderlust type, that you can get on the road and you can kind of do your own thing. You can start driving when you want to start driving. You can stop driving, when you're out of hours, right? You can max out your income as much as you can. And that's been restricted, over the last decade, really in a lot of ways. And so I think drivers need a pathway in the future where they can really become drivers the way that they want to again in the future. And that means, I start when I want to start, I stop when my hours are out, or when I'm done, and I get to plan my own schedule, and with the F-Staff on-demand marketplace, drivers get to pick the jobs that they want. They can, update their schedule and really kind of look through the different jobs that are available in their market and pick the ones that they're interested in. And so carriers are really liking it too, because they don't have to hire full-time drivers always. If they have more of a flexible type of business, this allows them to plug in the labor when they need the labor, but not use their equipment when it's available as well too. Carriers are sitting trucks in yards sometimes because they don't have the labor, and they're using a broker and another carrier to take their work, right? And so as we're educating carriers about this opportunity, it's definitely something that carriers want. As we talk to them about the ability to just hire when they want, when they need to, they know this is the future. And so our conversations are really great with the carriers. And I feel like, again, Thomas and Cam, it's just about education, right? Making sure that people know about it. And that's what I love that you guys are doing with the podcast too, just bringing up new topics for the industry so that everybody can kind of get up to speed.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely the goal that we have here, wanting to empower as many people as we can. So a couple follow-up questions to what you were just talking about. The drivers that you guys have on F-Staff, are they just pure drivers? They located in general central areas like say Philly or Dallas and waiting for loads? Do they have their own trucks? I mean, how does the hiring process work, and what comes with the driver?
Sure. Yeah. So this is just staffing. So this is only a labor play. So this is for carriers who have their own trucks that they have, work for those trucks, and they're just missing the driver. So our bread and butter has been a lot of third-party logistics that have dedicated clients, maybe in the retail space or really anywhere, manufacturing, something like that. But let's say Ryder, they're a great example, great client. They have dedicated business locations all over the country, and they have clients a lot of times that have a flexible up and down type of business, right? And so we will definitely be a great model for their business and have been over the last, I don't know, probably almost 15 years, probably since we've been doing business with them, kind of helping them augment the staff as needed. So they have the trucks, they have the trailers, they have the loads. They just need the extra drivers when they need to. So our drivers get to be a W-2 driver. So they are a regular income driver working for F staff, and then they are leasing themselves, or we're leasing the worker to Ryder to work for a day or a month. Could be full time. Could be just an overnight fly and drive. A bunch of unique situations of how they use us, but that's pretty much how they would use us.
Now, can the trucking companies buy out the drivers of a contract? Like, could they take them and bring them on as their own employee and pay a percentage to you like a traditional staffing agency?
We do. We still have that. We still have that model available. So, and we do. We're actually probably one of the only companies that prorates that as well too. So, as a client hires a worker for so long, we'll prorate that buyout for them. In the future, I could vision that potentially going away again, because if we're allowing for carriers to hire those on-demand drivers regularly, we want the on-demand drivers to make more money inside the on-demand system. That would be the goal. So that, maybe Ryder has to pay more for this driver for the day. Driver can make more money for the day, but then because he's floating around to different, customers and doesn't have any guaranteed work at one location, I think the driver should expect to receive a little bit more. And then why would they want to leave?
Yeah, no doubt. Build a company culture and create an internal thriving industry for them within your model. I mean, that makes absolute sense. And my brain just kind of turning on that. I think it's great. How do you handle? So let's touch on the compliance. And I know that's a big deal. You got clearinghouse, you've got the you can do pre-employment screening or the PSP essentially to kind of really get a good grasp on what this driver's background looks like and out of service and inspections and their motor vehicle report and that kind of stuff. But what systems do you have in place or stops and checks that you do for these people for the requirements?
Mm-hmm. So there's really in the industry, there's two primary ATS platforms out there you can start with. You can either start with 10 Street or you can start with Driver Reach. And I like them both. Our teams prefer 10 Street for the compliance side. And so we, that's the system that we use internally. Everything ties in and out of the ATS and in and out of our on-demand system. And so we do have a lot of automated checks inside because, again, we're tech-enabled approach. So as soon as drivers are triggered for different events, we'll automatically be pulling information. And then based on the results, of that, then we'll be either moving them forward in the application process or, going through, whatever appropriate pathway we would. But, we use everybody, right? So we use HireRight, we use Driver IQ. We're using probably one of the more exciting type of tools is a tool called Samba Safety, which will allow for you to do like live monitoring of MVRs. I think that's a requirement for us. So we have live MVR monitoring that will automatically trigger an event like a safety hold on a driver. If the driver has a negative event, like a suspension, revocation, DUI, or something like that, our systems will automatically pull the driver off, so the driver can't accept another opportunity inside the system until he's re-cleared through safety. So although there's a lot of systems that you can use, if you don't use them in a way that provides you that on-demand immediate action before you need human engagement, then it's really not a tech enablement yet, right? So all of our systems are in and out, and they're tied together in APIs and in ways where it's a protected environment, and it's a lot faster. That's, an important piece.
Yeah, that's badass. Is it a bidding process for the driver, or is it set rate based on region and what you need them for, or experience, or what sets the price, and how does that work?
So right now we'll have contracts with clients, and we'll have predetermined rates in different markets. But that's been moving so fast the last couple of years. We'll do a lot of, new verbal auth rates, just depending on what we're seeing in the industry. Um, we put together a wage survey annually, to kind of educate our customers on where the wages are going, what to expect, and what the types of, pay rates and or benefits that the drivers are looking for. We try to put that together every year, and then, our system currently does not have, like flex pricing, like a model like Uber, like Christmas Day pricing. That'll be something that we'll look for in the future to actually incorporate in the system, so that we would have, the right price at the right time, which really includes the right wage at the right time. Because I tell our team, I'm like, look, a driver that, works on Christmas Day, and we have some, that's crazy, right? Like Christmas Day, they're driving, they should be making 5 times their wage on Christmas Day, right? Because if you have to have that load running on Christmas Day, then you should pay for it, right? That's my opinion, and take care of the drivers along the way, right? Our biggest belief inside F-Staff is that truckers drive everything. And so all of our systems are designed to really focus on the trucker, right? And that means the truck driver. What the driver needs in the future is kind of that's what our, vision looks like into the future. Like everything we want is to take care of what the driver needs. So if a driver needs to get paid right now, like on-demand pay, we're going to provide that environment, and we do. So at F-Staff, a driver could actually work today, get his time verified, and then he or she could get paid same day or next day in our system.
That's sweet. Man, such a cool model. I'm so happy that I am learning about this, and I'm so happy to get to meet you, because I think this is such a cool opportunity for folks, because I hear it all the time, hey, my truck's parked because I can't find a qualified driver to run, right? I think that there has to be a little coordination. I'm just thinking from the insurance standpoint, because you have to add the driver, I'm guessing, to the policy to get the coverage to extend out to make sure you're in compliance there. But that happens pretty quick as long as they're with a good insurance provider. So
exactly, and we run all of so we own all of the pieces related to the worker. So workers' compensation is on our insurance policies, and then we have like an EPLI coverage and GL. Like, so our coverages are all about the things that we're in control over. The hiring practices, the screening, placement, hiring, firing, all of that sort of stuff. Like that's what our company does. But we don't drive the trucks. We don't maintain the trucks. We don't. I mean, our drivers operate the trucks, but we don't control any of that equipment, and we cannot insure any of that equipment, right? Yeah. So it's a different type of model, because you're leasing an employee into the truck. So yeah, we definitely share a lot of driver qualification information to the carriers ahead of time. And a lot of them want it ahead of time. If not, they can get it after the fact. And then one of the new development features that we're working on right now is to actually just get the DQ file inside the on-demand app, so that when the carrier orders the driver, the carrier would already have access to the DQ file for a set amount of time.
I might have a contact for you that can help with that, so we'll connect off air, and you never know. So
I love that.
Follow up the driver staffing thing. What happens in the event of, like, say, some sort of catastrophic loss, where it's a complete total loss of the truck, tractor, the trailer, the cargo, maybe a loss of life? What happens to the driver? Are they immediately pulled back, fired from your company? Who has the liability there for his actions?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think in a catastrophic loss, everyone is named in suits like that. Again, our contracts are clear in that, what we're accepting the responsibility for, and our clients indemnify us for, the equipment liability related to any, damages, crashes, things like that. Although I would expect to get named, and we have gotten named, and we haven't, when you're in business for, 20 plus years and doing as much as we do, it's a dangerous job. And I tell our teams that regularly. And, all of our, biggest accidents, I'm always reminded of that, how dangerous the job is. And again, why we do what we do and how much we care, why we care as much as we do, because drivers are the lifeblood of America. And without our drivers, we would not have anything that we would want to live some sort of, quality life, right? Like fuel for your cars and, clothes for your kids and food, for your family, right? Like drivers bring everything. And so, it's a big deal, and what we're doing and providing for the future, I think is going to allow, again, for drivers to actually get their freedom back, right, in the way that they actually deserve to have it, because they do so much and they sacrifice so much, so they at least deserve the freedom to choose when they decide when they want to work, and not to be governed by that.
It's a cool model, similar to like an outsourcing model where the carrier or trucking company, they don't have the liability of the taxes and the health care and the benefits and all the stuff. They're just paying a flat rate for the service, which reduces their taxable income, gets a service. And I'm guessing it's just like a 1099 contract. Is that correct, Justin?
Yeah, through our carriers, yeah, but with our drivers, they're all on W-2.
Yeah, no, yeah. For the carrier relation with your staffing agency would be just a 1099 expense, correct?
Exactly.
Cool. And then how do you guys handle the work comp side of things for like monopolistic and stuff? So if someone's out of, let's say, Washington, right? For example, your work comp won't extend into Washington. You might have some layers over the top, but do you have drivers dedicated to those states that you get policies for, or as it comes up, do you guys deal with that? Do you know?
Yep. Yeah. As it comes up, if we have, and we do, we handle Washington and we handle some of those difficult states. It's not our preference, obviously, because they're more of a pain in the butt to do
I'm based
business
here
in those areas, right? But yeah, here's the deal, right? Like when I got into this business at 19, I was a problem solver. And at 40, I'm still the problem solver, right? So that's what I wake up to do every single day. So if there's something that needs to happen, I've met other business owners that aren't the same as I am that might say, okay, well, if they're going to, push universal healthcare, I'm going to keep my business, under 50 employees. And, I'm not that type of guy. I'm a compliant type. I want to pay my taxes. I want to find out what the rules are. And then we're going to make sure that we can fight fairly and we can, have a good, strong business. But we aren't scared of change and we aren't scared of solving problems. And that's basically what we do in situations like that. We'll just, get the policies that we need.
I love it. Question, and this just kind of came up in relation to that. So California, as you know, has been making a push to get rid of contract workers, right?
AB 5.
Employed. Yep, exactly. How are you dealing with that? And are you in compliance with that? And can these California companies come to you? And is this a resource for those drivers to actually come to you that want to remain as that model?
Yeah, this is the solution for that model, right?
Okay.
So if a carrier would do business with F-staff instead, a driver could, work in the truck. Carrier takes the responsibility for the equipment, the same as they normally would. In the model that they have today, they're trying to put, leases in front of these drivers, right? Which, there's a stretch model there. The normal 1099 driver is not affected by AB 5. Right. And so I think the industry is trying to paint a different picture to that. But, if Thomas owns a truck and he's running out of the ports, and he's going to have a new truck because he's running out of the ports. Right. So, but let's say Thomas has a compliant truck and he's got his own contracts and he's running in California or even out of the state. He's fine. He'll be a 1099 driver. The issue is for a large carrier, like let's just pick on Swift because they're huge. Right. So let's say Swift has a owner operator program, where they lease their trucks to these drivers. It's not really drivers coming on with their own trucks. It can, but generally speaking, a driver will go through a program like a driver training program and then go on a lease purchase or something like that. Right. I think that's a stretch, right? And I always have thought that was a stretch to use the 1099 model in that way, because again, the driver is governed by that one employer, right? The driver doesn't have true freedom to choose the type of work that he or she wants. It doesn't smell like an independent to me. And so I've never thought about it that way. So when AB5 started coming down, it was more like I knew this was going to happen, and it'll start sweeping across the country because, companies are aggressively using the 1099 in a way that I think is a stretch to what the government always considered to be, an independent worker. So AB5 was intended to actually go not against truckers. AB5 was really like a Postmates, ruling, right? They wanted to bring in those drivers that are working for one company delivering food to actually be employees, because the government likes us employers to be tax collectors, right? They don't want to wait until the end of the year to collect their own taxes. They want us to collect it for them, and that's where things will go. Right. So I think on-demand driver staffing is absolutely a solution, to against AB5 for sure.
I think that's sweet. Great answer. And it just kind of got my wheels turning as to how that fits in there. Let's run through, pretend I'm a carrier and it's like, oh shit, I got 2 trucks sitting. I want to get a hold of you and I want to get connected up, do the paperwork, and then the process. What does it look like? Where do I go? What are the steps? How long does it take? If I need to start and I need to get someone in a truck in 3 days, a week, or however long it takes.
Sure. So we have, for the right clients and the right situations and in the right marketplaces, a carrier could come on today and get a driver this afternoon, right? It can be that fast. So really just start at fstaff.com and you click, on the carrier side that walks a carrier right through the process. A carrier can actually go through and become a client and pick their own rates, and we have everything done, in an afternoon. We really try to make it as fast and seamless as possible, and that'll be our goal later, is to even reduce that to actually be 30 minutes, 15 minutes of onboarding, something like that. But we do want to get to know the carrier. We do want to understand the job. We do want to make sure we get the details right. All of those things are part of the success of a driver being successful in the on-demand system anyway. It is not like Uber, right? And this is the reason why I tell people this. Like with Uber, for whatever reason, Cameron doesn't get scared of like the experience. Cameron thinks like, well, it's just my body. If we get in a crash, I'm not likely to get hurt. I'm just going 15 minutes down the road. That's that experience, right? When one of our carriers orders a driver, an on-demand truck driver for their tractor trailer, it's a lot more like Thomas saying, "Hey, I want to go out this weekend and I want to take my nice car, but I don't want to drive because I'm going to drink. And so I want somebody else to drive my nice car." Right? So let's say Thomas was a Ferrari fan, right? And he wants somebody to take him out in his Ferrari, right? I think Thomas cares a lot more about that transaction, right? He wants to know, who is this driver? What's the license look like? Have you ever driven a car, anything close to this one before, right? Before I let you get in behind the wheel of my car, right? And so that's the transaction that we're servicing. So it's a lot different than the Uber model, but, in that way, really, because the tractor trailer costs, as much as a Ferrari. And when you include, the goods behind it and the trailer behind it, it could be 5 Ferraris by the time we're actually moving down the road. And so, that's kind of the difference there between that model, on the on-demand truck driver side.
That's a good analogy. And yeah, it's their pride and joy and it's their livelihood. These are huge, huge investments for these company owners as the tractor and the trailer. So yeah, no doubt. I wouldn't let anyone drive my car. I feel the same way. No. I barely like my wife driving my car half the time.
Exactly. Well, and so here's the long future, the way that I can kind of see it, as far as I can see it. Trucking autonomy will definitely come, into the industry. It may be, another decade out, something like that, before we actually see a lot of autonomous trucks down the road. But the things that I tell my friends now, I go, look, there will be a time and a place that a robotic truck will get into a situation that it will need to order human labor, right? Could you envision a time when some autonomous truck says, I need help? I need help, right? And so in that future, we're going to really start tying things into the truck technology long term, so that a automated truck could order a human driver when it needs one.
That's actually really, really awesome. I love the ease and the speed in which you're able to offer your services to clients. That's pretty dang amazing. Actually, I have an interesting question. You've been in the industry for a long time. You've seen lots of changes come through. Like AB5 is going to be one that's kind of interesting to see how it plays out. But what do you think is the biggest change that you've seen through the industry in your experience?
I mean, the one that I've experienced, there's always been changes to hours of service, right? Up and down, and changes to those rules, 15 and 10, or, 14-hour rule, exemptions. Like, there's always tweaks to that. The biggest change that I think that the industry, kind of finally went through was clearinghouse, right? When I started this company in 2001, we actually started doing on-site drug testing, because we would have drivers applying. I would send them to do their drug test. They wouldn't do it for 3, 4, 5 days, maybe a week later. And it started to get me, worried and nervous that some of these drivers were actually on drugs, right? And, there was no central repository or database that I could search. And there was not one that I could actually, submit a lot of data into. We were able to finally submit positive tests into Higher Right. I still couldn't submit refusals, right? So in that case, a driver applied, and we were even doing on-site drug testing. If he refused to do a drug test on-site, I mean, we pretty much know he's refusing a CDL test. But because he hasn't actually applied for our company yet, and he left during the application process, I couldn't even turn that in, right? And so I just did not like the uncompliant kind of approach that we had. It was like, you can pull MVR data so much better than you can drug testing information, right? So if we're actually going to have a regulated industry, then why don't we actually regulate it, right? And so when Clearinghouse was created, obviously it's another layer, and it's one more thing, right, in the process. But what it does do is it has one place now that all CDL tests get reported to for positives. So now if you're a driver and you test positive, I almost can say your career is almost over at this point now. Years past, right? You could almost eliminate that employer from your application if it was a short period, a month or something like that. And another carrier might not even know that you had a positive test with another company, right? And so at least now, we have a place where we can say, okay, that's going to happen now. And we can trust that we can hire drivers that are clean, that are not, doing drugs, or if they had, there's at least confirmation that they went through a testing platform after, so that they can, kind of become a CDL driver again. But that's the biggest change, and it's negative in that we'll probably lose more drivers again because of it. But I think you're losing the right drivers this time, right? Instead of pushing out drivers that just want to work and losing them to other industries, for those reasons. I would like to lose the drivers that I don't want on the road in a tractor trailer versus the ones that just want to work.
Absolutely. And you mentioned in that one of these convictions can really ruin a career, take away a driver's career. That sort of incident can actually even close down the company that they're employed with too, because it can cause such a financial spiral in compensation or insurance cost, or being able to find new loads because they have an inspection without a service because of drug use. Now the brokers are less likely to want to hire the motor carrier, so it's something that very much is, I think, like you said, a wonderful addition, even though it is another layer, to make sure that we have a better picture of the drivers that we're putting in those rigs to ensure that we're being safe on the road. for various reasons. Obviously, the safety is important, but also just for operational soundness. I mean, it's a vital thing. So I like that. I like it a lot. Oh. Well,
The other,
okay.
the other,
So,
the other change I was going to tell you guys too. So trucks will order their own people, right? At one point down in the future. But earlier than that, the next change I mentioned to you, we have on-demand pay. So a driver can get fast pay with the F-staff model and get paid, kind of like next day. But I'm telling my accounting team to go ahead and get ready for this. That I would prefer, and this I'm sure the workers would too, that they actually start getting paid when they clock in. So true on-demand pay would be I clock in and I'm starting to get money trickling into my account. And then I stop working, I clock out, and the money stops coming into my account, right? Unlike me asking for it later, because again, I tell people like, look, they've already done the job. They're already giving you the value. The value transaction's happening right now, but why do they have to wait to get paid when they've already performed the work, right? And so I don't believe in paying somebody before they do the work. But I think that paying somebody while they're doing the work, that's definitely going to happen.
I think that's cool. That's a cool concept. And then how do you guys handle detention and per diem? And if it's a long stretch of time, is that a negotiated rate with the carrier? Because I know the carrier sometimes it's a little bit out of their control too on some of the detention figures and fuel surcharge and stuff like that. How do you guys handle that?
So the things on the fuel surcharge or detention times, I mean, really are again, because it's just a labor model, they're dealing with all the trucking side of things. So if a driver is stuck, it's pre-negotiated. So either it's on an hourly rate while the driver is on the clock. But generally speaking, it's going to be either negotiated, during the trip. Like if we need to add something on, driver says he's stuck and he's upset because he's not getting paid for it. We'll deal with that like in the moment because we don't want the driver to be upset. So we'll talk to the carrier, or at times F-staff has even, just made decisions to help the driver or pay the driver, compensate, do whatever we need to do, really, because we just want to be good partners. And in the end, I think that's what it takes. Think about the driver. What does the driver need? And if the driver just needs money, because a lot of times the driver won't express this. A driver may be screaming that he needs to get back home, maybe because he does not have money for food anymore, right? He planned for a 2-day trip. It's now turned into 3, and I'm hungry, right? And that's usually like, we'll talk to the drivers and say, hey, is there anything we can do? Maybe we can even just, I've ordered pizzas for drivers before, that were stuck on the road. And I mean, honestly, that goes so far, just getting somebody some food, because, being frustrated is one thing. Being frustrated and hungry on top of that, man, you're hangry, right? You turn into Betty White, So Thomas, and basically we would deal with those things, in the moment that they come, if need be, or if a driver finishes a trip and also feels like, hey, I wasn't compensated fairly, or I should be compensated differently, then we'll just negotiate that with the carrier.
Cool. I think that's awesome. What right now is the average going rate, I guess, however you guys do it, per hour, per trip, per day, or per whatever it is? Like, what's the average rate, let's say, out of Dallas? You had mentioned Dallas, but like, what would a driver cost out of Dallas?
Cost wise, I mean, it's that does change a little bit because of the difference of a job type, right?
Okay.
If it's a food service job, like with US Foods or Cisco, there's so much more risk to the human body, right? And just being injured. We need to make sure that we kind of look at that a little bit differently. But generally speaking, your pay grades right now in Dallas, I'm seeing the wage wise, it's like $25 to $33 an hour.
Cool.
And that has climbed. I mean, that's a 50% increase than what it was in 2019.
Yep.
I mean, their wages have gone way up.
I think it's good just to have an idea. And I love that you do the survey of the drivers for what's important for benefits and wages and stuff like that. I think it's funny, too, because pay is up there, but pay is not the most important thing that an employee looks for when they're with a company or an organization. I think I don't remember. I read a study, and it might have been Harvard Business Study or someone. It ranked like sixth or seventh on the list. Once
Mm-hmm.
you meet your basic needs and you feel like, hey, I'm getting paid adequately and fairly and what I'm worth, all of a sudden pay just stays here, and then other things become important. And it sounds like you've kind of touched on that when you're willing to ask, hey, what can we do? Hey, I'm willing to get you a pizza. Hey, I'm willing to negotiate on your behalf. Hey, I'm trying to provide an environment where you can be successful and kind of own your own schedule and your income and stuff. So I think that you're touching on all the right things to help with that driver retention for your employees, I'm guessing. So
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, the other thing we added here too was a heavier life insurance policy. So this was something actually, you like this story too. So a bank at one point was requiring a large key man life insurance policy on this, big, kind of note that they were supporting. So they needed another $2 million on Justin Clarke, right? And so at a certain point when they no longer needed that, I canceled the policy because it was kind of expensive. And then we transitioned to acquiring a policy that would give all of our drivers a $50,000 life insurance policy for every single one of our drivers. And it doesn't cost them anything. They just have to work for F-Staff to get that. Because again, drivers are in, I just saw a new study. It was saying it was the most dangerous. I've always kind of known it as the second most dangerous career, but based on, death statistics, and catastrophic industry statistics. That could change potentially, but I thought that we were second to journeyman linemen, kind of in the electrical power line industry. But regardless, I mean, drivers are the most underinsured bunch, right? Working in one of the most dangerous jobs, and they don't have. And if they were to, something happens to them on the road, and we've seen it happen, the family's not prepared. Right. And so we just wanted to make sure that we're at least doing something extra to help the drivers in case something were to happen. That way we feel more comfortable with the drivers, at least protecting their families, because that's what they want to do at the end of the day is protect their families, put food on the table, live their lives and have a little bit of fun.
I applaud that. I think that that's a huge piece that's missed. And a lot of people don't do that for themselves, right? They don't know how accessible it is, how easy or how affordable insurance is for life insurance. And a lot of times, like the phrase I always used with clients or my clients is, it's my job to ask you about having life insurance and making sure you're prepared financially. Don't make it my job to tell your family you didn't have any if you die, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not fair,
Mm-hmm.
So it's just having those hard conversations. And truck driving, unfortunately, you get bad health associated with it. There's a trend, which is great. And there's a lot of fitness and there's a lot of focus and some technology based companies that are coming into the trucking industry trying to promote eating right and fitness on the road and stuff like that. So I think it kind of goes hand in hand with that old school thought of like, life insurance will cost more. The older you are, the more out of shape you are, the more health problems you have. It costs more money because the risk of you dying prematurely goes up. And so the insurance company takes that risk on. But at the end of the day, though, it's responsible to make sure your family doesn't have to either maybe mortgage the house, maybe move, all kinds of things end up happening. Right.
No, and I have a personal story with that too. I told you I started this company with my identical twin brother, and our mom came. My mom came on after, I don't know, we were already maybe getting 3 clients or something like that, and she came over and quit the other company, and then came on with contracted driver services. So I'm the only owner now. And mostly because my mom wanted to retire out a couple of years ago, but prior to that, my brother had passed in 2011, and so going through that. We did have key man life insurance policy set up with our company and had them set up for years with never the expectation that we would ever expect that we would have to use one. Right. So yeah, that's a tough conversation to have, but I would always tell people, if you have a family, especially if children, and you have people that need you to take care of them, potentially, if you are kind of the breadwinner, it is really, really smart to take that extra step to make sure that you've got some insurance for the family in case something does happen to you. So that was, a huge, kind of moment in my life period, but that helped a lot, right? Having that insurance policy that kind of helped bridge the gap in a lot of the costs and the things that we had to experience through that loss. it was huge. So you're absolutely right, Cameron.
Man, I'm sorry to hear that. I couldn't imagine that.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, it was and continues to be, one of the probably the biggest challenges that I face. I mean, identical twins. I mean, we were super close, right? We bought our first house together, started our first business together. Continued to live, beautiful lives together, and yeah, that was tough after his passing. And the one thing I always tell people about my brother that he actually shared with me was about kindness. So he was a big pay it forward guy. So he would do a big pay it forward like on Mother's Day, and do pay it forward project. I heard so many stories about kindness after his passing and things that he would do. So we actually created a foundation for kindness after his passing called the Honey Foundation, and inspire actually there's like 12 schools, I think, that run our kindness education materials, but we teach kids and we even teach corporations how to incorporate kindness in their lives, because we have actually had so many realized benefits after practicing these things after Scott passed, and learning about kindness and learning how to implement it correctly. We've learned a ton about the importance of kindness, and so we actually bridge that now. And I'll give a little plug. My LMS platform partner is a company called Luma, and Gina Anderson has she's the CEO of Luma. And so Dr. Anderson and my wife, Jamie, have been working on a kindness block that they released maybe about 2-3 months ago. And it's kindness for truckers out of the Luma system. And so we have this kindness for truckers education block. It's going out to all of Luma's customers too. And I've been hearing really, really positive success stories from the carriers that are having it run, like even from the CEOs. They're like, I'm never going to be the same anymore after going through the education and learning kind of a little bit more about kindness, and my people too. So we're actually proud of what we're able to do with the foundation and inspiring people in a really positive, meaningful way. Although it's a tragedy for me personally, right? It's such a success story too for the world, because the world needs more kindness. The world needs more compassion, empathy, and understanding, not only to truck drivers but to everyone, right? And so that's kind of what my wife and I are focused in on now. In addition to the support truckers movement, is really pushing kindness. And in the end, that's what we'll spend the rest of our days doing, is continuing to promote kindness and making sure that people understand, why we want to keep kind communities in the future. Because I know I grew up with them around me, and I would never want to lose the fabric of community, around kindness and kind of what that means to me. So we're pushing that out, and it's, again, like everything in this world is possible, and you can take any opportunity, whether it's, easy or chaotic or whatever the situation is, and turn it to a positive light. And that's what we've done with the loss of my brother Scott, was definitely turn it towards a positive light. And then now I get to actually, talk about kindness, focus on kindness. I get to use his name regularly, which is a blessing for me. And then now, bridging the gap between kindness and truckers too. I never kind of imagined that those two worlds would be colliding with me, but now they are too. So we can kind of bring in the charitable aspects along with the company, and kind of promote kindness to our own direct community too. So happy to share any of that stuff down the road with you guys.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That's beautiful. How do people get in touch with Honey Pot? And then you said Luma?
Okay, yeah. So the Honey Foundation, you can go to Be Kind Today. So BEE kindtoday.org. It has a little bit of a bee-themed element to the Honey Foundation. It's the Honey Foundation just because. And so we teach people, you don't need to do anything for any specific reason. You could do something just because. And so that's the kind of message there. So you can go to bekindtoday.org to go to that. And then our platform, Luma, I'm trying to think if it's Luma ATS. It's Luma, LUMA, learning.
Yeah, you'll have to get her in touch with me. I'd love to interview her and get her on, because just from the little bit you told me, that I got excited. Like,
exactly.
So
yeah,
cool.
yeah,
So
yeah.
cool.
Gina Anderson is Luma Learning. I don't remember her website, but you can pull her up. She's amazing, out of South Carolina, and we work with her on all of our education platforms. So she's beneficial not only to our business but also to the charity, and she loves what we're doing too. So she'd be happy to come aboard.
Awesome.
That'd be great. It'd be really awesome to have another like advocate for people out there. I mean, you guys and your mission, it definitely seems like it's geared primarily just to advocate and promote the truckers, which is, I don't think I've seen anybody else offer that sort of service out there yet. So that's awesome. And then spreading that love is very important. And unfortunately, you had to go through that tragedy, but sometimes the best things in this world are born from tragedy. So, thank you for being able to use that and spin it to something that's actually benefiting people, because we need way more of that in this world, especially today.
Amen. Mm-hmm.
But I think, we are running close to the end of our time frame. I'm sure that you got to get going because you're a busy man. So I think 2 questions that we typically ask people that are kind of just for fun. One is, you've been in the trucking world for a long time. Everybody out there on the road has a CB handle, at least, for the most part. What would yours be if you had one?
I'll probably say trucker twin, so, being a twin my entire life, it'd be that. Yeah, I don't know how many of those on the road there are probably. I would want to have a unique handle, so yeah, it'd be a trucker twin.
Trucker twin. That's awesome. Okay. And then the last one, typically, I mean, you've gone over a lot of your mission today and about be kind and all that sort of thing. So probably it's going to be related, but if you had a billboard with one message to give everybody out there, what would it be?
I got you right here. Truckers drive everything.
Yes, they do.
Yes, they do.
That's what it'd be right there.
Clap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, trucking makes America move. I mean, they really do. They are the lifeblood. We would not be on here. I don't know how many times we've said that. We would not be doing this podcast. We would not be in this building. We would not have the luxuries and the life that we have without the trucking community.
Exactly right.
That's why we're so passionate about it. And I feel blessed to be able to give back. And this was our way of trying to give back to the trucking industry and the community in a way that we could bring value that wasn't insurance, because people hate insurance. We know that. The quickest way to get someone to shut up is talk about insurance. But we saw this as a way that we could really try to bring value and shine light on people like yourself. And you're bringing honor to your brother's name. I love what you're doing. I love the mission that your company's on. I am so excited to kind of keep tabs and hopefully build a relationship with you, because I think there's a lot of cross benefits that we can, and synergies that we can kind of connect up to for sure, just based on some stuff you've mentioned. So I'd love to connect. So
let's do the next one. We'll tape it on the golf course. You got like probably a good 5 months. 5 months Arizona weather out here. We'll go tape the next one on the golf course.
And you're in Phoenix, you said?
Yeah, we are.
Cool. Okay. Well, Phoenix is, I'm happy to go down there. I've got connections and family down there anyway, and we got clients there. So it gives me a reason to get out there.
Exactly. Well, you guys are great. Thanks so much for having me again. Thomas, Cameron, appreciate you guys. And thanks for what you're doing with the podcast and bringing stuff to truckers and do what you can to protect them too. I appreciate you guys.
Awesome. And folks that want to check them out, fstaff.com, head over there. Look at their system, check out the requirements. Sounds like a good idea to me. You got a truck that's stuck. You need to move. You need to make some money. You can help out a driver. I don't know. Seems like an easy solution. So thank you, everybody, for listening. As always, you can find us on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, pretty much every major platform, YouTube. We got a Facebook group. Find us on LinkedIn. Justin's on LinkedIn. In fact, I think that's where Thomas came across. You guys met each other. So, I'm thankful for platforms.
Exactly right.
Okay, guys. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.